Emily stood frozen in the darkened bedroom, holding the ornate mirror she bought from the yard sale, her hands trembling uncontrollably in the dim glow of moonlight. The mirror reflected something impossible. Behind her was the shadowy figure of a woman watching silently. Emily spun around, heart pounding violently. But the room was empty, her breathing ragged. She turned again, staring back into the mirror. The figure was closer now, mouth open wide in a silent scream. Emily screamed herself. Dropping the mirror onto the carpet, she stumbled backward, shaking her head, trying desperately to make sense of what just happened. Mirror lay face up, its reflective surface shimmering gently, as if mocking her terror. Gathering her courage, Emily knelt carefully, lifting the mirror again. Her blood ran cold. The reflection was normal. Now her own frightened face staring back. She recalled the yard sale. Clearly now the strange elderly woman selling items from a dusty attic. The woman had practically forced this mirror upon her, insisting it would change her life forever. But she never warned it would haunt her with visions of terror. Emily carefully placed the mirror on her dresser, hoping it was just exhaustion playing tricks on her mind. As she lay in bed, eyes wide open, she felt an unsettling chill run down her spine. Sleep was impossible, her thoughts racing wildly with fear. In the early morning sunlight, Emily was certain it had all been a bad dream, until she saw a long scratch running down her neck, red and angry in the bathroom mirror. The scratch had not been there before. She gasped, feeling sickened and confused. A loud knock startled her out of her shock. It was her neighbor Sarah, looking worried. Emily, what going on? Sarah asked urgently. Your screams woke me up last night. Emily felt her cheeks flush, embarrassed. Sorry, she muttered quickly. Must be had a nightmare. Sarah glanced skeptically at Emily's pale face, unconvinced. Let me know if you need anything. Okay, she said. Before leaving reluctantly, Emily shut the door, leaning heavily against it. What was happening to her? Was she losing her mind, or was this mirror truly cursed? Throughout the day, Emily grew increasingly paranoid, jumping at every noise, shadows playing tricks on her eyes. By evening, she was completely drained, anxiety gnawing at her sanity. She decided she had to get rid of the mirror. She grabbed the cursed object, ready to throw it in the trash, when a sudden whispering voice filled the room. Don't let me go, it hissed softly. Emily stopped, dead, heart racing. Who said that? She demanded fearfully. Silence answered her, but in the mirror, her reflection smiled coldly, eyes dark and lifeless. Emily screamed, smashing the mirror hard onto the ground. Glass shattered everywhere, but each shard now reflected the shadowy woman, smiling maliciously at her. You're mine. Now the whispers mocked. Emily collapsed, sobbing in horror, unable to understand why she had become the victim of this nightmare. She stumbled to the phone, desperately calling Sarah, needing someone, anyone, to witness this nightmare. Sarah burst into the room moments later, eyes wide. What happened? Emily just pointed at the broken shards on the ground, terrified. Sarah looked down, but saw nothing strange except broken glass. Emily, are you okay? Sarah asked gently, concern obvious. Emily turned confused, looking herself again, seeing only ordinary glass. She shook her head, unable to speak, fear gripping her throat tightly. Was she imagining it all? Was this nightmare in her mind, or was the horror just beginning? Emily had no idea that buying one simple yard sale item had just unleashed a darkness that would tear her entire life apart. And worse, it was only just getting started. Emily stood alone in her room, shards of the shattered mirror scattered across the floor, each piece glowing faintly in moonlight. The whispers still echoing through her mind. She backed away slowly, heart racing wildly, her reflection smiling darkly back at her from each broken piece, mocking her terror. Emily knew she had to escape. Whatever evil she had released could not remain here. She ran outside, trembling into the silent night, feeling eyes watching from every shadow. Fear tightened around her chest, choking out rational thoughts. She stumbled forward, running blindly through deserted streets, gasping for air, her heart hammered wildly in her chest like a desperate prisoner banging against a locked door. In her panic, she did not notice the figure standing ahead until she crashed right into him. It was Sarah's brother, Liam. Strong, dependable, familiar relief flooded through Emily. She clung desperately to his shirt, shaking uncontrollably. Liam held her gently, his voice soothing, calm "Emily, what's wrong? Talk to me." His comforting presence steadied her nerves enough to speak. Slowly, she began describing the mirror and the horrifying visions, but as she spoke, Liam's expression darkened, his eyes becoming distant, guarded. Emily felt a sudden chill. Liam pulled away, slightly staring at her intensely. "Did you buy that mirror from an old lady at the corner house?" Emily nodded slowly, dread seeping into her bones. Liam's jaw tightened, fear shadowing his eyes. "My grandmother warned us never to touch that mirror. It's cursed and destroys everyone who owns it." Emily stared in horror, realizing she had unknowingly invited evil into her life. Liam took her hand gently, urgency radiating from him. "We must destroy every shard before sunrise, or it will take your soul forever." Determination pushed back Emily's fear. She nodded, following Liam back toward her house. Stepping inside, the darkness felt thicker, heavier, suffocating. Liam switched on a flashlight, the pale beam trembling over the shattered glass pieces, still scattered across the floor, but now each shard was glowing brighter, pulsing like a heart, alive, hungry, waiting. Liam knelt cautiously, reaching for a shard, but the moment his fingers touched it, he cried out, recoiling sharply. Pain burned his fingertips. Emily watched, horrified, as shadows crawled up Liam's arm like ink, staining his skin. She grabbed his hand desperately, trying to pull the darkness away, but it only spread faster. Liam's eyes widened in terror as shadows enveloped him, completely consuming his body. Emily screamed helplessly, falling backward, horror gripping her soul. Suddenly, the darkness vanished. Liam stood perfectly still, staring blankly, eyes empty, lifeless, cold. Then slowly, his lips curled into a cruel smile. "You're next, Emily." The voice was not Liam's anymore, dark, twisted, sinister. Emily bolted from the room, tears streaming down her face, gasping for breath. Fear chased her like a predator, unstoppable, relentless. She ran outside, collapsing onto the cold ground, sobbing violently. This was no nightmare, it was real evil, unleashed. Now she had lost Liam, trapped forever in darkness because of her mistake. Guilt and despair crashed down heavily, nearly crushing her heart. From somewhere deep inside, a faint whisper spoke softly, "You must fight, Emily, or lose everything." Lifting her head, Emily felt a spark ignite within. Determination burned brighter than fear. She had unleashed this horror, and she would end it no matter the cost. Little did Emily know the true price of her courage had yet to be revealed. Emily returned home before dawn, her legs shaking and her soul heavier than ever. Her mind raced with everything she had witnessed. Liam now possessed, his voice no longer his own, the cursed mirror somehow alive and angry, and the whisper that told her to fight still echoed softly within her chest. She stepped over the broken shards carefully, afraid they might still move, afraid they might bite back. The mirror pieces no longer glowed, but she knew their power had not vanished. She had to find answers before it was too late. She opened every drawer and every cabinet, searching for a clue, anything the old woman at the yard sale might have hidden. The attic, her thoughts suddenly whispered, "Go to the attic." With trembling hands, she pulled down the old wooden ladder that led to the attic. Each step creaked under her weight, and the air grew colder as she climbed. Cobwebs clung to her hair. Dust choked the light, but in the far corner she saw something, a trunk covered in black fabric. Her fingers hesitated, then pulled it open. Slowly inside were yellowed papers, old books, and a single envelope sealed in wax. She broke the seal with a shaking hand and unfolded the paper. It was a letter written in the old woman's shaky handwriting to the next owner of the mirror. "I am so sorry if you are reading this. Then you have already seen her, the woman in the mirror. She is not a ghost. She is a prisoner. She was cursed long ago, trapped by a cruel ritual. The mirror is not cursed. It is a cage, and every time it breaks, she gets stronger. If you see her face clearly, you will become her next jailer or her next victim. There's only one way to stop her. Return the mirror to its original resting place, buried beneath the roots of the old elm tree behind the yard where you bought it. But beware, she will fight you, she will trick you, and she will beg you." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She folded the letter slowly, her heart pounding again. She turned to leave when she noticed a wooden plank on the attic floor, slightly raised. She knelt, pulled it up, and found a small key beneath it. Not knowing what it unlocked, she placed it in her pocket and descended back to her room where the broken mirror shards still lay lifeless and cold. Emily did not sleep. She packed a small bag, placed the shards into a thick box and wrapped it tightly with ropes. She waited for daylight, then made her way back to the yard sale house, which now stood silent and abandoned, overgrown weeds creeping along the porch. As she walked to the backyard, something strange happened. The sky seemed to darken slightly, though no clouds were visible, and the wind whispered in her ears words she could not understand. She found the elm tree. It was enormous, its roots thick like the limbs of a giant curled around the earth protectively. At its base was a small stone with strange carvings. The dirt beside it looked recently disturbed. Emily dropped to her knees, digging with bare hands until she found a hollow space just big enough to bury the mirror shards. But just as she reached for the box, something grabbed her wrist. Cold fingers, tight and violent. She screamed, jerking her hand away, and looked up. It was Liam, or what used to be Liam, his face pale, eyes hollow, black veins pulsing beneath his skin. He reached again, this time speaking in a voice that sent chills through her bones. She does not want to go back. She wants to be free. Emily stepped back, shaking her head. I am ending this thing. That were Liam's face growled and lunged at her. She fell hard onto the ground, but her hands still clutched the key. Without thinking, she threw the box into the hole, grabbed a rock and began slamming it down onto the soil, trying to bury it as fast as possible. The wind howled louder and louder. The ground shook beneath her knees, and the voice in the wind screamed in rage. But Emily did not stop, not even when the tree groaned as if alive, not even when Liam's cold hand reached once more for her throat. She struck his arm with the rock again and again, until he vanished like smoke, and then silence. The earth settled, the wind calmed, and the sunlight broke through the trees again. Emily fell back exhausted, staring at the buried box, breathing heavily. But she did not smile. Something still felt wrong. The letter said bury the mirror, but it never said what would happen after. And as Emily stood to leave, she noticed something terrible carved into the bark of the elm tree. A single word etched deep with burning black edges. Welcome. Comment for part 2.